You're listening to the Beau Monde podcast. I am Joe, and with me here, I have my brothers, my mans, and them. Uh, we have G,
What's up, y'all?
we have Steve,
What's going on?
the other Joe,
Yo,
and last but not least, Don. All right, people. So this is the Beau Monde podcast where we bring y'all, the listeners, into our group conversations that we typically have. And we usually have conversations about all things from current events to important topics that come out of them, to where you get our perspectives and opinions on things and just about anything. And we talk about just about anything that sparks conversation. So today we have a few topics that I feel most people coming to a certain age think about these days. So for most people coming out of high school, the big question today is usually, what am I going to do after graduation? And for some, the answer is clear, and for others, not so much. So I guess we could talk on both parts of it, because I know within our group we have, two parts of, the post-graduation, high school graduation experience. So one of the main, questions that we've had a few times around here is, what is the purpose of a college degree, specifically right now, like in 2021? What is the purpose of a college degree? So I guess we could start with G. What are your thoughts on that?
The college degree has a purpose if it's within your plan, right? Like if you have a actual plan about what you want to do with that degree, then it makes sense to go to college. And Don and Steve know it's the same thing if you go into the military. You pick an MOS based on what you want to do long term, or the military is going to assign you one. So like you go to college, you get a degree in communications. You better have a plan, because what does that mean, right? Like it doesn't even spark interest to say, oh, I graduated with a degree in communications. Most people are like, okay, what is that? What is that? So you got to have a plan. I knew I wanted to be IT. I knew information science and technology was going to be my major. So I can get into software and stay in the computer realm so I can maintain a job, a well-paying job, to take care of my family, right? It was all planned out. I think the problem is when people just go to college just to say they went to college.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on that one. I think for your college experience to be extremely effective, it's kind of got to be like reverse engineering. You've got to know what the end result is and then take steps to get to that end result, right? I don't know if I told you guys this story, but the first house that I ever bought, a mortgage guy, I was talking to him and I was telling him about some of my student loan debt. And he was like, man, you ain't got nothing. I seen somebody with a $250,000 student loan debt with a communications degree. And I think he said the school was like Westchester. I said, God damn, that's an idiot right there, right? Because when you think about it, why do you need to spend $250,000 for, like G said, a degree that it's not like you're going to become a doctor, a lawyer. It's not a technical degree. It's a degree that puts your foot in the door, lets an employer know that, hey, I'm smart enough to retain certain information, and I'm dedicated enough to go over a time frame of 4 years plus and see through to this commitment, right? But I mean, I know for me and my family, Joe, you might relate, as we're probably the only two West Indian folks in the group, right? It's being West Indian is like being African. Okay, you're going to college, right? Like there's no real middle ground there. It's
right.
Hey, so you're 18 years old. So what's going on with you in college? It's not like a question of what you want. It's a question of when you're gonna go. It's not a question of if you're gonna go.
Right.
So like when it comes to the relevancy of a college degree, I mean, me and my mother argue about it all the time. I said, Mom, what's the point of you going to school, picking up all this student loan debt, right? Because what's the chick's name from Full House? Unless you fall into her kind of money, you know what I mean? Like your parents are paying this and your parents are doing that, like, or unless you go into the military and you finance your school in that way, or you're intelligent, or you have or unless you have a skill set such as playing an instrument or you're playing sports, you're paying for that degree. So the question really becomes how much do I want to leverage my credit, right, against how much do I think I'm going to get paid, and will I be able to survive, and based off of how much I'm going to have to pay back to all these lenders that are giving me money, because it's ridiculous to think that back to that $250,000 person. How do you lend someone who's 18 years old that much money? like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you $250,000 just to do it, like, just because you might graduate. And quite honestly, it's one of the genius things that our financial industry has done. Right? They've created a way to force you into the rat race and to hold you in the rat race. Like, okay, you've got $250,000 that you owe me, and guess what? That's mine. You ain't going nowhere. You can't default on it, right? Because if you default on it, you can't get federal jobs. You can't default on it because it's not like you can file bankruptcy and then it'll remove it from your debt. All you're really doing is just kicking the can down the street because they want their money and they're not playing. So to answer your main question of relevance, I think G hit it right on the head. It's a reverse engineering kind of thing. I want to be a doctor. This is how I get it. This is what I got to go through. But if you do it the other way around, where you're like real touchy feely, I don't know, you're going to end like it's a big business. And in business, don't nobody care about your feelings. They want that money. Oh, I don't know if I want to. No one cares. Where's my money? 4 years later, 5 years later, 7, I don't care. Where is my money? You know what I mean? People forget that when it comes to those loans, man, they the real thugs right there.
For real, because it really is a big business too, right? The whole business of like making sure you have this group of people that are just paying whatever it is every month for the rest of their lives, and buying, and then these companies buying and selling your loan, basically, right? So it becomes a whole business. So it's like, I feel like, to me, and this may be some conspiracy stuff, but it feel like to me that's more an incentive for them to keep pushing the whole go to college. Don't think about student loans, go to college. We want as many people in the system paying us, and you know what I mean, as possible, you know? So
both of y'all said two words. You know, I agree with everything that's being said right now. You know, you said system, you know, Steve said, you know, the rat race, right? And I wanted to point out those two terms because, you know, and first off, to your point, you remember I sent y'all, you know, that clip was a few weeks ago where, you know, Brad Pitt was talking. He's like, yo, America's not a country, it's a business. Yeah, that's 100%, you know, true. Like, I mean, I feel like, and I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories or, you know, anything like this, but, you know, I just want you all to think about something. So have y'all ever heard of this show called Westworld?
Oh, yeah.
Yo, have you watched the new season?
No.
So the new season, you know, they, you know, they're out there in the actual world, and they come to find out that there's these guys who created this sphere. It's called Rehoboam, and it basically controls the outcomes of people's past, you know, within their life, right? Which in turn helps them to control society, right? Now, like I said, I'm not going to go on a conspiracy theory, you know, type thing here, but in regards to kind of controlling, you know, the flow of this country and where we're headed and things like that, it's easier to control people if you throw them up in the systems. When they're in systems, it's easier for you to anticipate their life trajectory and hence keep them in control. All right. You keep people in control through fear. Right. And when I say systems, I mean, you know, not only going to school, because going to school, you know, that's a system too. Right. Like, you know, me and Joe, we went to the same high school. Right. When it came time for us to graduate, there wasn't even like, as far as guidance counselors, teachers, things like that, nobody talked about anything but going to college. It was like, yo, that is the route. But nobody told you, hey, you're going to graduate with, you know, $100,000, $200,000 in debt, you know, and your school loan payments are going to be, you know, $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Like, nobody told you all of this. So, and I think that there's a common misconception that, you know, the degree makes the person instead of the you know, the person creates their own trajectory. You know, as far as being successful, the piece of paper doesn't matter. You know, like G said, like Steve said, if it's part of your plan, you know, they're not going to let you be a doctor and operate on somebody if you don't have a degree. Right. Or, you know, they're not going to let you build a bridge if you don't, you know, if you're not an engineer or whatever the case may be. So if it's part of your plan, that's one thing. But you don't have to go to college to, be successful. And I kind of jumped off a little bit, but, in regards to the systems, everybody, you're throwing them into these systems, right? The system is, send them to school, right? Where they can, you'll gather this debt, and then you got to spend half of your adult life, trying to pay that debt back. And throughout that time frame, you are controlled, right? It's like, criminals, right? When you throw them up to the criminal justice system, once somebody becomes a felon, that's it. You can't get a job. You can't get a good paying job. No one wants to hire you, but at the same time, you get released out into society, and then you have to fend for yourself. Guys have families. How are you going to provide for your families? Right. So it's designed to, once you become an offender, you become a repeat offender, and you keep on going back to prison, where private industries, right? There's so many jobs lined around the criminal justice system, right? You have these public defenders, you got, correctional officers, blah, blah. There's all this money revolved around these systems. And it's easier to keep people in control if you can keep them within these systems. So, like I said, not going on, conspiracy theory, but I think going to college, all of these systems is what, I'm not going to say helps, but makes the American society continue to revolve, continue to move, and the powers that be I don't think that's going to change, right? I just think that's part of who we are as an American society.
That's funny. In the idea, the whole prison system part, because I kind of compare, of course not all the way, but I kind of compare the student loan debt to like being on parole. Like I'm done with this. I've been done with this shit, and I'm still dealing with this shit. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely correct.
You sound like a crazy baby mama. I'm done with this. I still got
but it's like it's also like student loans is also like credit card debt, right? It's also like, think about it. Like Don was just talking about systems. Every system that we're in, the 99% of the people is by design. You got credit card debt, you got student loan debt, you got now home ownership debt, mortgages, right? But they say mortgages mean like death or something like that. Like you don't own, people like, oh, I got a mortgage. You don't own your home until you pay for it. You're a glorified renter. Think about it. The bank is the landlord, not you. I mean, you know what I mean? So same thing with student loans. Like, I think it's so funny, and like Don mentioned, it's a business, because you have all these big universities like the Penn States, the Ohio State. They have these commercials where cats walking around campus smiling, happy, just having that's not college. Not for the serious people. That shit is stressful.
Yeah.
Right. It was that for me. It was happy, you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, but I wasn't that serious about it. Like what Jabron touched on, if you go to college and you know what you want to do, you'll have a better experience. You'll get more out of the university, correct? But us being 18 years old, 17, I was 17. We don't know what we want to do. We don't even know ourselves. Think about it. How do we know we want to be in finance? We don't even know what really finance is all about unless our parents were in finance. Our dad was a banker. Our mom was an accountant. But most of the people look like me, their parents weren't that. Their parents didn't have a high school education. I mean, their parents only had a high school education. Some didn't have a high school education. Right. And I think it's funny how all of us went to college. I forgot who I was talking to. Maybe it was you, Joe. How we starting off lower than our parents. And we have, I'm talking about economically, and we have a college degree. The reason I said lower, because we have loans. They didn't. Yeah. How are we starting off at a negative 100,000 net worth?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
At least they start off with zero, right? So we starting off at a negative 100,000, right? And we getting jobs coming out of school. I'm not saying where we are personally right now, but coming out of school, jobs paying $30,000, $40,000, and we have $100,000 in student loan debt, $50,000 in student loan debt. Yes, it is a system. It's a system made for us to fail, especially people of color, because most of us got student loans. Our parents didn't have a $50,000 check. They didn't have a 401k. They didn't have an IRA where they can just borrow from and pay their child's room and board.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, and you're 100% correct. I'm going to be Mr. Accountability. That's their fault. Right? Like you had
Whose fault?
kids.
Parents
It's
of
your
the
parents'
kids.
jobs to prepare you.
Correct. Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
So, and I'm not saying they knew or didn't know, right or wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like we have it a lot better than our parents did and way better than their parents did. So it's not to absolve history, but what we have, especially in America, right, we don't realize how privileged we are. All of us. Like poor people in America are rich people to poor people in other countries, right? So it doesn't matter your economic status in America. So we're talking about these systems and the way things works and the things we didn't know, but you rarely hear someone place the accountability on their parents. And the reason why I say that is because these are the conversations I have with my parents. You know, like when my dad talks about the 1%, I tell him it's his fault I'm not in the 1%. You're my dad, right? All right, cool.
Yeah.
So that should,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's our job to teach our next generations and get them better prepared for that and give them some kind of compass to know where they want to go. I already told both my sons they want to major in economics. And if they come with something better later on, they're cool. But that's what they're going to major in.
No, absolutely. Even with my son, like whatever the family business is, that's what you're going. As long as you can help their family business, I'll pay for it. Right. Like you're not going to major in some bullshit liberal arts and expect for me to pay for it. How is that going to help their family? Like you say, economics, finance, some type of computer science. You know what I mean? Something like that. Information systems. Something that's going to better you. Just
Even
don't
that's
go
a
just
waste, to be honest with you.
or anything. I don't know about ISP or you know what I mean, but like whatever can better the family, better the family's business. You dig what I'm saying? Like you're going to major in. You're not going to school just to go, even though I think college, going back to your original question, Joe, I think college is a wonderful place for networking. I really do. Because I wouldn't have met half the people. I would say an eighth of the people I've met if I hadn't have gone to college. So I do agree with networking, but you have to know why you are there.
Yeah.
To get the most from it.
Yeah, and that's actually a good thing to move to, but because I know we mentioned it a little bit already, but like at the end of the day, for most people you can kind of not do without, but you still have those parts like we mentioned before, those careers that you kind of still do need college, your doctors and your engineers and all that
Those
stuff.
are specialists though.
Right. Now, as far as, just overall though, when it comes to like actually find a career, what do y'all think like those pieces mean when it comes to finding school? You know what I mean? Like
a college degree is absolutely, and I'll go on the record and say this day in and day out, and I've said this to my own son, unless you're going into a technical field, absolutely unnecessary, right? So I'll ask all of y'all right now, of any of you that have a professional life, right, which is all of us, when you go to your employer, have they even asked you for a transcript?
No. Well,
y'all ever seen that movie, Catch Me If You Can? That's why, right? Niggas is just, I got a college degree. Ain't no one asking you shit. So it's like, as long as you look old enough, hey, he looked like he could have went to school. Yeah, I did.
But that's the thing, Steve. That's the thing. Like, for one, college is preparing you to be an employee.
For
the rest of your life.
I agree.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, a degree is only relevant if it's more of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a status, like a statement. It's like marriage. It's like home ownership. It's like anything that the media put in our minds. Oh, you're not making it until you own a home. That's really not true. You're not making it until you're married and you have kids. That's more stressful than being single. I mean, I can't, you know what I mean? Like, but if you're running in a circle, just like with Greek life, if you're running in a circle, right? Let's say you meet someone, Joe, in Texas, and they went through what you went through to join the organization. Now you have more of a bond. You dig what I'm saying? And I think that's the same thing with networking. When I said networking with college degree, if I'm in Florida somewhere and someone else went to Penn State, it's more of a bond. It's more of a, I guess, an icebreaker. So it could be used as a status symbol. I think a college degree. It's not the end all be all, but again, it goes hand in hand with that networking.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that that's a decent icebreaker, but let's be real. Let's be realistic about who we all are as individuals, right? So when I was down in Texas and I was visiting Joe, well, I was down there for my Air Force stuff, but I visited Joe a couple times, right? We went to a spot in Texas where we was probably one of the few Black people in there, and it just so happened that there was a Penn State alumni group that was there, and we Penn State too? Like it was a decent icebreaker. But if we're talking about on a professional level, I think that we're all charismatic enough where we can, you know what I mean? We've made those calls at late nights out of the red book. Like it's nothing to just do.
But I learned that with y'all in college.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's nothing to be like,
I know, but it's
okay, well, my name is Steve. What do you like doing? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I don't fish, but I like to eat fish.
I feel you. And I agree. I just think like when you in an environment, it could be you as an employee, entrepreneur, it could be whatever you want to be, right? If people look at you differently, it's sad, but let's keep it real, guys. People look at you differently. If everyone has a college degree and you don't have one, they're not going to view you the same. It's sad.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it real. If you're ugly,
it's not sad though, LB. It's not sad.
It's the reality.
Yeah, it's reality. That's what I'm saying. It's so if let's just hypothetically speaking, if you have to be $100,000 in debt, right, for a few years, but that $100,000 in debt you'll be able to meet the people that you can now make $1 million a year. Now is worth it. But most people don't have that work ethic. Most people, like Steve said, they don't have that charisma, that personality to make it work for them. So that's why they're the 99 that fall into that college isn't worth it. I'm $100,000 in debt, but I'm only making $40,000 a year. You got to work it.
Yeah.
Well, there has to be accountability there too. And most people, like, it always has to be accountability. So yeah, it's not worth it because what did you do? Right? Because the only people we can control is ourselves. Those of us with children, no, you don't really control your kids. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. Yeah. So you could just threaten them and get them to fall in line. It's like, what did you do? Oh, it's not worth it. Well, what did you do? Oh, I applied for a job. That's it. You didn't start a business. You didn't start a YouTube campaign. You didn't start a professional Facebook. Are you on LinkedIn? Are you reaching out? Right? They usually just stop. And then they, set up the decorations for the pity party and everybody attends and no one's holding them accountable. I'm not saying it's easy, but there have been people that made it, beyond the stars that came up in worse situations than I have. So myself, I have no excuses not to make it to where I want to be.
No, yeah, I feel. I mean, either way, like you say, with a degree, without a degree, you're still going to have to work. Period. Yes. Like, there's no way around work. I personally don't think a college degree is worth it. However, it's like I'm contradicting myself because I'm saying it's not worth it, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't have one.
I think what you're alluding to is that the degree itself, right? Some of the things that you learn in school, you can. I mean, let's be real with each other, right? Excel basically runs all kinds of businesses. Like it's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Because you can, when you look at the financial industry and they've got all these candlestick charts and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they end up taking that information, their adjusted open and adjusted close information, and put it in an Excel sheet. Like you could easily hop on YouTube and learn everything that you need to learn about Excel. You don't have to go to some school, become an Excel professional, and get some form of placard or diploma or proof that you know what's going on in Excel, and you could still be as competent as the next guy. But maybe some portions of the education itself aren't necessarily really translate to something that's beneficial to you in your actual professional journey and professional travel. But what I will say is I'll bring up the whole West Indian thing again, right? A thing my mother was real big on was my mom was like, I don't know if I call it anti-Google or how I would explain it, but anytime you had a question for her first question was, okay, well, did you look it up? I mean, why are you asking me for it? I don't know all the answers. Did you look it up? And I think that's kind of the framework that if we really break apart school and what it's supposed to do for us, it should create that fire where it's like, I don't know the answer to this. What can I do to find the answer and make my answer consistently correct or as close to correct as possible often? You know what I mean? And I think that when it comes to school, and Don was talking about a system that led to all of us talking about a system. They've created a system where it's kind of like a cookie cutter version of us kind of exploring our own mind and then going back and trying to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, because realistically they've got that time frame, right? So if you're in like a school with a trimester, or even if you got a 2 semesters a year or whatever, you still realistically have that time frame, and they're not really interested in your ability to deep dive and figure out, okay, well, this happened because of this, because of this, because of this. They're only interested in you regurgitating the information that's in that book, right? So because of the system that school has created, where you're not, it's not really unless you're in your doctorate program, really. And you could even argue that, right? It's not really about unique, individual, deep thinking kind of information. It's about, this is where you find it. Tell me where you found it. Can you argue to that? It doesn't seem like it's as much about unique self-thought that inspires some form of change. It seems more like it's about, this is the information. Can you repeat it back to me? Kind of like rote memorization type things. You know what I mean? Because some of the tests that I've even taken, some of the tests that I've even taken, it's like, okay, well, look at the book. That's what the book says. Write down the answer. Like that's it.
Regardless of your interpretation of it, or the extra nugget you glean from it, they want the answer right out the book.
Right out the book.
Think about it. That's how higher education is supposed to be. And that's why colleges look down upon entrepreneurship, because even now they're trying to why would you need a degree in entrepreneurship? Doesn't make any sense.
Weird.
But anyway, you got to remember the academics were up in the ivory tower. They were in the ivory tower with the kings and the queens, right? The entrepreneurs at the time were what? The fishers, the farmers, the people they look down upon. And so if you look at it, that structure is still set up that way, where they have basically better marketing. And so they'll make you think that other thing doesn't exist. You can't be a plumber, electrician, right? These people that make 6 digits a year and can quickly create their own businesses, right? That's not it. Go work for a Fortune 500, right? One of the big 5, PricewaterhouseCoopers, right? That's success. Hedge fund manager, Wall Street, right? They just have better marketing. But it's on you to read and look at the big picture of, oh, this is what it always was. I don't remember academics even helping in things other than theory. There's very few professors, probably none, that I directly looked up to, right, for their work in their field. Maybe as people, but like say my programming directors, my programming instructors. If you were that good, you'd be working for Apple. You wouldn't be teaching me.
You're doing your own thing.
You wouldn't be teaching, I'll tell you that.
well, to be fair,
man,
some of them. No, to be fair, some of them, like I had one professor specifically that, at least his story of it was, he did a lot of things in the industry, you know what I mean, and even had his own side, and they have their whole like, I did it now, I want to go and teach it kind of thing.
I bet you Warren Buffett don't have that.
Huh?
I bet you Bill Gates don't have that. I bet you Warren Buffett doesn't do that.
Some people don't have that whole,
because that's the
Mother
story
Teresa give back to the world feeling.
Look at success. They don't go teach.
Really
different though.
I heard she was mean as hell though.
But what they say, those who can do, those who can't teach.
Can't teach.
Yeah. That is.
Like, nobody was rich at Penn State, man. They weren't rich. To us, they were rich because we were 19, 20 years old, 25 years old, and they riding around in a 5 Series BMW. To us, that was like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Right.
adults
swindle.
now like, oh yeah, like he wasn't doing shit.
I
No
know
disrespect to our teachers.
it's gonna be completely off topic, but I gotta ask y'all this question, right? So looking at like the financial industry and all the craziness that has gone on in the last week, right? How can I put this? So I'm not a big gambler, but I do have like a little bit of a theory when it comes to the financial industry and the information that they give to us and what they kind of bottle up and tell us is how you do things, right? So like I don't gamble often, but I used to play blackjack a little bit in Delaware or whatever, right? And I don't know if y'all play any blackjack, but they got like this paper. Apparently every casino gives you this paper, and on the paper that the casino gives you, it tells you how you're supposed to play blackjack, right? So it tells you, okay, if the dealer is showing this, then you should hit because you have to assume that the dealer is going to have a 10, right? And the whole time I'm looking at this sheet, I'm thinking to myself, why would the person who wants the money from me give me the answer to the question? That doesn't make much sense, right? And as I'm and it's the same thing with school. I feel it's the same thing with the financial market and the financial industry. Like they'll give us this conservative way of how you're supposed to operate. Because if you can make money in that space, then you're probably very lucky. But the house always wins, right? When it's all said and done, the house is gonna take all the money back. It don't matter what's going on. Cause like when we look at what's going on with GameStop, if you got in on that joint at $20, you're good. You're good. Now that thing's up to $320, I think. But
yeah, it's a wrap for that thing right now. But
it was $20 like 2 weeks ago, Don.
Yeah,
like
it's not meant for us to win, man. Yeah. If they willingly giving us $100,000 and we're 18 years old, know that something ain't right. Like, wait a minute, right. I don't need any collateral, even though it's backed by the government. A lot of these student loans, but I don't need any collateral. I don't have any credit. I don't have any. You gonna give me this money to go to school to make a better life for myself and my family?
Sounds too good to be true.
Yeah,
that was a red flag right there.
So 100,000 means
yeah,
100,000 for a financial institution where they make their money off of giving money away. That should tell you first of all, you give me 100,000, that means you're gonna make more than 100,000.
Oh my
the business of business is business.
How about all the cats that was upset during COVID time because the school still wanted full money? Like, your tuition's $20,000. I'm going online. Yeah. Okay, then go online and pay my $20,000. Yo, that is some thug shit. Excuse me, that's some thug stuff to tell a student. Like, I don't care whether you come to school or not. You give me
right. Even if you drop out, you'll still owe.
Exactly.
So you might as well I gotta finish.
It's crazy, man.
Because the funny thing is, back home, most people I know went to college and didn't finish. So you got banks making money off of people who don't even have the degree.
But that was their scam, Joe. That was their hustle. I'm trying to think like a hood, right? Get the what's called the refund, right? And then drop out. Yeah. They just came up $5,000.
So they thought.
Yeah. But they weren't going to pay it back anyway. Oh, man. They're not going to pay it back anyway.
For me, it was just such a break. Like, especially after having y'all just chilling. I know whose house I can go to. I know I can have something to eat. We're going to laugh. We're going to watch movies, listen to music, and still going to study. Like, it was really good. And, so many people go to college and try to, like, reinvent themselves. And so they end up in a crowd they don't really want to be with. So I think, we were blessed in that aspect that we didn't have to deal with that. But it's still all a system. It's still all a game, but it's still accountability there. People talk about student loan forgiveness. I'm with it. I'm not going to advocate for it because I took the loan. So,
but you took the loan. Not to cut you off, G. Did you take the loan? And I'm gonna admit my ignorance. Did you take the loan knowing what you were doing?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm not beating myself up, but like, I don't feel bad if we have a loan forgiveness. Because a lot of people say, "Well, you signed the papers." I saw some guy online old white guy said, well, you the one that signed the papers. You're okay. I signed the papers, right?
Oh,
At
JoJo,
6%. What's up?
you mad, dog? I can hear it all in your
No, think about it. You signed the papers at 6%. That 6% was accruing throughout the 4.5, 5 years you were in school. The interest alone, you can't cover the payments. And then with the payments, your job is paying you, let's say, starting off $3,000 a month before taxes. So you're probably bringing home, let's say, $2,200 a month. But if you're lucky, but yet your payments are $800. Come on, bruh.
Well,
but
JoJo,
listen, that's the game you sign up for. It's like I don't feel bad when drug dealers get arrested. Like that's part of the game you signed up for.
But they knew
I don't
that.
care if it was,
That's what
I
I'm
don't care
saying.
if you knew there's Marines, right?
let's put it. Go ahead, G.
And you got to remember that the job world and the college world, they're partners. That's the only reason for a job to tell you it requires a degree. It's funny because we all know once you touch down on their job, they don't care what you learned at school, they're going to teach you their way anyway.
That's
So
what
they're
I'm
in
saying.
cahoots with the college. They're all in the same business together. And that's the only reason why, that's the only reason a job will tell you need a college degree. Because it's like, I'm not about to sit and write papers for you. I'm not going to do math for you. We're going to put it in the software, right? I might not even code for you. I might just have to write a script and then the software spit it out. So there's so much less work in the real world, but they want to make sure that you're playing the game. So it's a constant check and balance.
Right.
But the job is a perfect example. Not to cut you off. Just give me 1 second. Not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
The job is a perfect example. You get hired. For one, the job is fucking lying. Okay. Oh yeah, this and that. They're not going to do half the shit they say they're going to do. Okay. So that's why I always promote whenever these young people go into a job interview, lie. If you want the job, say whatever they want to hear, because they're doing the same thing to you. They're doing the same thing. If they want you, they're going to tell you whatever they want you.
Wait a minute.
That's Marcus's game right there, man. Just lie on that resume, write whatever you want.
Lie.
There's a book called Pimp by Iceberg Slim, and that book
heard of it.
cold as hell. And you know what that book shows you? It shows you could tell someone something, do something completely different, and just string them along until they're no good to you anymore.
But
right?
that's what I'm saying.
And essentially, that's what capitalism is. But you got to be careful with those lies, because I can't go up in Joe's job and lie my way through it, because there's only going to be so many times I can stand next to somebody else and be like, hey, so what do you think?
But what I'm saying is, lie. What I'm saying is lie, but gain the skills. The job is lying too.
Okay.
They're lying. They're lying. I love you to death, Steve. Whatever your job told you, they're lying. I don't even know what they told you. They're lying.
That ain't a revelation to me, man. Every job I've been to,
the military too. The military. Look, I've never joined the military. Steve, Jabron, and Dunn. I guarantee you they lied to you. I guarantee you.
I don't think you're telling us anything.
I want to tell you the lie that the Navy told me.
So why
the lie
that I'm a lie.
The lie that the Navy told me when I joined was they had this thing called and I'm gonna say shut the hell up right away before y'all even respond to it. It's called the Seaman Pack, right?
Yeah, fit you well, my friend.
I'm cool.
So they bring you in and they're like, yeah, you don't have a job yet, but you could train on all these different jobs and then maybe you'll get one of these jobs. Yo, that was the biggest crock of crap. You know what it really is? G had mentioned it earlier, right? It's needs of the military. If you go in and you have a job like that, they box it up and they sell it very nicely, just like those 2008 mortgage loans that they had for everybody. They box it up and they sell it nice. And then once you start your payment, you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. There's nothing here.
Fucking lying. School does the same thing. They lie. Oh, if you go to school, you want to have a better career. They're lying. You're not.
Or that whole idea of if you go to school, if you got a college degree, you'll make $1 million more than if you didn't.
They're lying.
Well, I think that's genius marketing on their part, though, because like they understand the psyche of an 18-year-old, of a 17-year-old, of a 20-year-old, of any human being. Yo, right now, what do you do? Look at the commercials that we all see. The black dude, during the Maury show or whatever, talking about going to school. What are you doing right now?
What are you
You
doing?
know what I mean? If I could tell you something along the lines of whatever you're doing today, I can take that and I could get you more money. Yo, you'd be surprised how fast people would move. People are motivated by self-interest, and what interests you more than elevating your lifestyle? Jojo, what do you make? 30,000 this year? Check this out, dog. I know a way to get you 60,000, right? That caught your interest. Okay, well, how do you do it? And then as I go through the steps and the processes and the procedures, you know what I mean? If I'm a good salesman, I'm going to be able to close that deal, right? Because both of us
You
work
want to start lying.
Yeah, but both of us work the enterprise, right? And both of us know what that sales script is like. You know what I mean? You walk away from enterprise thinking you need to have that insurance, but in all reality, a good portion of it may already be covered. So what are you really doing, right? You're falling for the game I'm giving.
You said the magic word several times. Sales. Right? Like, you know, you gotta sell something to somebody. And no sales rep, and I mean, obviously I know this, you know, because, you know, I'm in sales. Anyone who's been in sales knows this. You know, you're not going to give your prospect or that customer all the information, right? If you give them too many options, if you tell them everything, then they start to second guess and you're not going to make that sale. So you give them just enough information to be able to sell them on it, right? So they feel comfortable with their decision and they move forward, dude. It's all that's
you sell them all
you
the
know what's
benefits.
sad? You know what's sad about it though? You know how like a few years ago, I believe it was like during Obama times when they were dealing with all that predatory
the ninja loans.
No, not the loans themselves, which school loans are kind of predatory, but the whole predatory schools, they were listing like, what was one of those schools, like DeVry and all of them schools, they were listing as predatory institutions. Funny thing is, this whole situation is predatory because I know we touched upon it a few times in this conversation about when you're 17, 18, and the first thing they come to tell you is like, if you want to make this much money out of college, you got to do that. You know what I mean? To me, that's predatory. So what makes that not predatory versus those other schools that are just upfront with it? Like, yo, we just here for the profit.
More money.
It's the government.
You know, what's
the government's the biggest gangster out there. Listen, man, the government will tell you what to do and not to do and tell no one else they can't talk to you. Like, and that's just the way they run things. They have the only monopolies that still exist are government ran, right? The Congress will say, oh, we're going to attack Google or Facebook because they have a monopoly, right? In the city I live in, you don't get to pick who picks up your trash. City does it. You don't get to pick your water. The city does it. That's monopoly. So they're just gangster like that. They're going to do whatever they want to do unless you're a congressman or appointed. You don't get to say anything because they're all playing the same game. And they'll like me and Steve are going to act like we're beefing. And then you tell Steve your secrets and he tells me, and then we figure out how we're going to shut you down. It's all this big collusion going on. And that's why that's not considered predatory because we're doing it. We're the government. If you do it, it's a monopoly.
It's different.
You do it, it's trash services.
Yeah, and not that too. Like from a government standpoint, right? Because you still have people who have a viewpoint of myself of what the government is supposed to do, which is protect the people, right? Like, do they do that? That's something that's debatable. But if I put Jabron up as the sacrificial lamb, like, guys, I caught this one guy doing that wrong thing. Remember how I was telling you about X, Y, and Z? I caught him doing it. Now I have more people giving me more faith because they're like, this guy, Steve, he really cares about us. In the back of my mind, I'm like, man, G crossed me, and that's how come he's a predator.
Everybody like Bernie Sanders. That's Bernie Sanders. Like, oh, Bernie Sanders cares about, he doesn't give a fuck about anybody. None of those politicians do.
Yeah, he's a politician. They're in the business of caring for themselves. Like, they're in the business of promoting their situation.
Socialism, but he never gave away any of his houses. Like, it's funny. So think about this, and this is not related to our topic, but it's when my brain works, and I apologize.
It's so good. It's so good.
Think about people advocating for a financial system that exists somewhere else that they don't want to move to. It doesn't make sense. Like, there are capitalist countries, there's communist countries, there's socialist countries. They already exist. Just go there.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring it here, but the thing is, it doesn't work. So they wanna build it up off of something else and then say, now we change it, right? So Don does all the prep work and I'm the one who takes the meat off the grill and then I get credit for it. Right. That's really what it is. So that guy is funny to me because he's been in Congress since forever. You know, he has multiple properties. He has millions of dollars from the American people, and life's no different. It was the same thing last year with 45. It's like 45 was only in office for 4 years. All the problems you talk about precede that. So you need to talk about all the ones before him too, and after, right? As long as you're talking about the same problems, everyone that was supposed to fix it is responsible for it. And it's the same thing with these systems. People try to, villainize capitalism, but it's the only fair shot you got outside the government. If it's a communist system, you have to be in the government. If it's socialist, you have to be in the government. And I don't see none of these people volunteering to go to Russia or North Korea. So it's like you don't even believe in the system that you're advocating for, yet you're trying to convince me to beat me in the head with a dummy stick.
Yeah,
That's right there.
I guess a lot of that is I would attribute that to people never being satisfied with what they have. You know what I mean?
And
Whenever you're in a system, you're always looking for a way to, in your perception of better the system. And I feel like that's what politicians feed on, is that idea of we can always have something to sell to the people because there's always going to be something that people are going to want. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of that.
Fear.
That's all part of that
they
other system. Fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're always selling fear, man. They always like each side, the red or the blue. They sell fear, and then they act like G said, they fighting, or what Steve said, they fighting one another, and then they go to dinner and have, you know what I mean, behind the scenes they go have dinner with one another. Like, and we fall for it every fucking time. It's hilarious to me. It's comical, but I digress.
Yeah. So, I mean. So I know we talked on student loans a little bit, but I would like to dig deeper into the whole effects of it all. Because for instance, specifically for the Black community, right? I know a lot of people have those issues. Like I told you, like most people I know that are back home have student loans and no college degree. Then so what does that do? That creates the situation of you have all of this money to pay and you have nothing to, at least not, you don't even have that thing that you were you got yourself into debt for to even make a way to even pay that stuff back. Like for instance, STEM, that's a big deal. And that's been a push since I was in middle school, pushing Black people into STEM. And that's still a problem. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on like the effects of that in the Black community?
I think we have to educate ourselves, because just because you're in student loan debt, you don't have a degree, that doesn't mean life is over, right? You need to accept that, okay, I have this debt. Let's say you're actually willing to pay it back, which most aren't, but let's just for the thrill of this conversation. All right, I want to pay this $30,000 back, right? You need to devise a way to create another source of income outside of your job, right? Because most of them have a job. So create another source of income outside of your job that's passive, right? You may have to work a little extra, but you want to work towards it being passive, and then put all of that money towards your student loan, okay? And then once that money pays off your student loan, let's say it takes 10 years, then continue to use that money to build another passive thing of income, because credit cards are the same way. Right? People spend all this money on credit cards on material things, but now they got a $20,000-$30,000 credit card bill, and like, well, where did it go? Well, you spent it on 3 Christmases. You know what I mean? You spent it on a bunch of food for Valentine's Day because you wanted to impress some chick that you never smashed. You dig what I'm saying? So it's like it could be prostitution. Yeah, it could be student loans. It could be credit card debt. It could be even your home. I bought this house and now I'm upside down. I bought it for 100, but it's only worth 75. Now you're 25,000. It's the same debt, but that's all I'm saying. We can put a title on it. It's the same debt. We gotta take it by the horns and figure out, all right, what plan am I able to implement to pay this debt down, and at the same time enhance my wealth or enhance my financial situation.
They say if you're
and
in a
and
room
that's
and you can't
something we
figure out
don't
who the
think
dummy
about. Go ahead, G. Go ahead, G.
is, you're the dummy. So you got to plan better. You got to know your
Mm-hmm.
history better. Because quote unquote black people were doing better closer to slavery than we are now.
Yep.
So something happened. It has nothing to do with slavery. It's convenient. We could say that, right? But it has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with something that happened in the 60s or 70s. And that's where you started to see the decline. Black wealth, black family, all that
Schools.
declines in the 60s and 70s.
Drugs.
So you can't
Yeah,
drugs.
drugs is a
But
big one.
drugs came about the 80s. They were pushing drugs in the 80s. It wasn't that you didn't hear about it in the 60s, 70s. It was all recreational in the 60s, 70s. They even, free was it free love or whatever that movement
But the
was.
integration of
And so
schools, G. The
Yeah.
integration of
maybe
schools, but
and
we
no,
trying to be like the whites.
oh, you're talking about desegregation. Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
the desegregation. I'm sorry. We trying to be when we started, like you said, the economy for African Americans was stronger, like in the 20s and 30s and
Yeah.
40s or whatever. When they started integrating blacks and whites with businesses, and we going to the same, that's when it declined.
Especially, well, I would say that tied with making white businesses more appealing than black business, right? So I would say a lot of it has to do with, yeah, when we were kind of doing our own thing, we were buying black. That wasn't just a term or a snappy little movement that was happening. It was actually like reality. Like black people were just buying black because that's what we were. That's what was around. But when you start integrating, not saying that it was all bad, but when you start integrating, then you have that whole that whole thing where you're trying to figure out who is providing what, right? As far as customership, who's providing you what, and then you have your white institutions, or I mean not institutions, white businesses being put higher than black businesses. Then at that point, we're just giving our money away. We get our money and we give it back.
It's the same thing with student loans, though, and that's why I wrapped it all in, because it's a loan that you can't afford, right? And maybe not you, right? Maybe not an 18, 19, 20-year-old. I get that. But your parents damn sure know. It's some
Should have
adult,
anyway.
it's some adult at that institution knows, and they're probably the same color as you, and they didn't warn you or tell you anything.
Yeah.
And so, but at the end of the day, it's not your fault, but you're going to be held accountable for it. So you like what JoJo was saying about you having to find a way to pay it back, because if that's the thing holding you up, you crying about it is not going to remove that barrier. You're gonna have to actively do something about it.
So to me, it sounds like there's just a general lack of educating each other or sharing of information.
I think that it's twofold, right? Because I think knowledge is the first part when it comes to anything in life, and that's how come I brought up my mom and that you go find out thing, right? Because knowledge is the first step. Once it's not until you realize that there's another way to do something that you say to yourself, maybe what I've been doing all this time might not be the best way to go about this. So knowledge is first, and then action becomes the next thing, because it doesn't matter what you know. If I know how to be a millionaire and I'm still not a millionaire, then who cares? You know what I mean? It's definitely that knowledge piece, but that knowledge without action is just wasted time. Because if we're talking about how black businesses were more successful, uh, you know, uh, pre the 80s than they are now. Even though we could get into a slew of different systems that probably created what we see with that. If we are not knowledgeable of the past, and we are not knowledgeable of how people have infiltrated and tried to destroy African American society, then we're doomed to continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over again until there's nothing left, really.
I just think the loans is the least of it. Like
Yeah.
that's not the biggest barrier. Our predecessors did well with and without degrees. You could do well with and without a degree. It's going to come down to decisions, and you're going to have to be man or woman enough to be held accountable for those decisions, whether it's fair or unfair. Like my mom, every time I said something wasn't fair, life isn't fair. was no explanation. There was no, okay, baby, it's going to be like, life's not fair. It's just the way it goes. What are you going to do about it? Because you can't control life. You can control you, though. So what are you going to do about it?
And I mean, you bring up an interesting word, fair. Like my mom always used to tell me, people misunderstand the word fair. Fair doesn't necessarily fair, equality, equity. Those words have nothing to do with each other, right? Fair does not necessarily mean that we're all set up the same way. Fairness, I want to say, has to do with what you have, and I mean, it is there is that causality there, but it's at the end of the day, who cares, right? Just like the picture behind me of those cats picking up that poor group of folks picking stuff. Like it doesn't. No one cares about your what led you to this point. It's all about what you're going to do from this point to elevate yourself or stay where you are.
Two wolves in a sheep voting on dinner is fair. I'll tell you how that vote's going to go.
Right.
That's true.
I like that.
Write that down.
Yeah,
He's gonna get the credit one time for it, right?
I might have
like my LB Jabron once said, and every time after that, like
yeah,
I
for sure.
Say.
I'll give you credit for sure. I give you credit. All right, so with all the talk of like money and student loans and all that stuff, I know you guys have been paying attention to something that I feel like a lot of people can fall into to alleviate a lot of this, financial issue. And I mean, yeah, it still needs some type of education, but dealing with stocks and specifically what's been happening in the past couple of weeks. Have y'all been messing around with that stuff at all?
Absolutely.
Y'all got money
I have a
in
stock
there,
portfolio. I haven't been. I don't really follow the trends. So when I first got into stocks, I kind of modeled off of what Warren Buffett says to do because he's the most successful at it, and so I don't really break from that. But one thing I did notice, and I posted this: powerless people are compassionate until they gain power.
That was dope. I saw that. That was dope.
And that's what this is showing you. People without power are the most compassionate people. Once they gain power, they turn just into the people they hate.
Oh, so you think this whole thing happening is gonna flip to them becoming the new hedge funds? The Reddit groups becoming the new hedge funds?
I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, and I don't know if I put that much thought into to say that's what I think is going to happen. It's just an observation. I just always been an observer of things, and it's like you can say how unfair or unequitable things are, and then you put people in those powerful positions, or they get a taste of power, and then you start seeing hashtag eat the rich. So it's like, so you're never going to become rich, and if you do become rich, are you going to give away your money so that you're not rich? Probably not.
I do think that this whole Reddit thing has it's obviously exposed one huge weakness in the market, right? Because all them hedge fund cats, right? So I just started dabbling in it a little bit, and I don't know everyone's like knowledge level on it, but options trading it's extremely risky, but there obviously with all risk comes a higher reward, right? And options trading is extremely risky. And what these guys with Reddit have essentially done are like all your ETFs, your funds. So we've been in a bull market for quite some time, but all those funds that just consistently day after day are making 5%, 6%, 7%. Because of what they've done now, yes, in the short term, it's really good and it shows that weakness. But, the government will find a way to reinvent the system to move the marker back a little further. And then secondly, it created a little bit of instability in like ETFs and other firms, right? And maybe G can attest to this, but because he said he's dabbling in stock, right? You've probably noticed that in your portfolio, those companies that are typically pretty solid, like your Apples, the Tesla, I don't really rate too much, but like your Apple, those companies that have like really good returns over I think Microsoft hasn't really been impacted too much, but those companies are showing negative stock negative stock opening versus closes. And in part, that's because of the Reddit guys, right? Because all these hedge fund cats are running scared. Because imagine, right? Imagine you're talking about a stock that was valued at $20, yo. $20. Imagine going up to $400 in the course of 1 week. And then imagine a cat like me coming through like, yo, I got 100 shares, dog. Where my money at?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's created such a large amount of instability that it's going to take the market some time to readjust. Because I'll get personal for a second. I just started doing options trading, and I've only been doing it for like 15, 20 days. And day over day, I've been seeing a 10% return. Day over day, 10%. Like solid 10%, not like a, you know, 9.5. I'm talking about 10% better. And some days, you know, I'd end up grossing like 15, 20% of return to the point where over the course of less than a week, I made $1,000 off of it, right? And then as soon as that Reddit thing happened, lost like $500 same day.
Yeah.
So like from the standpoint of, you know, you kind of showing hedge fund managers like, oh, you guys don't run everything. That's cool. And it kind of shows that we do have somewhat of a free market society. But then when you think about these smaller, these institutions like Robinhood or TD Ameritrade, like they don't have money on hand to pay out all of that right now. Right.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you made $400,000. Great job. It's just going to sit there because I don't have enough money to cover $400,000 times 500 people. You know what I mean? So the long and short of it is I think that it was a ballsy move. It was pretty impressive, but you know, who knows what that's going to end up doing to the market right now. And now you got to be like super careful while you're making investments because, you know, this has opened up the fact that, well, Reddit is an app that their main job is to kind of see, you know, anything that's free really isn't free, right? So if you're making purchases on apps like Reddit, they're following your consumer patterns and behaviors and, you know, either selling that to a third party or they're using it to keep you down, right? Because they'll recognize, like just like Walmart, right? Walmart knows that when a storm is about to happen, they need to send more beer to stores because during storms, people love to drink, right? So that's what Reddit's going to end up doing. They're going to recognize, okay, when the market is downturning like this, people are going to want to purchase these stocks. So let's get ahead of it so that we could be the ones to provide them with those stocks and then see a 10 to 15% markup off of these stocks. And these guys that are doing what they're doing on Reddit, again, very ballsy, very brave, very bold, but like in the short term, like what's that going to do to the market? And in the long term, what's the SEC going to do? What are other government entities and organizations going to do? And then what are these third party vendors going to do, right? Like how are they going to then react? Are they going to, anytime that they see a swing of over 15% or 20% a day, are they going to restrict people from purchasing those stocks? You know what I mean? Like how many accounts do you have where you could go to TD Ameritrade or you could go to a Webull or whatever? How many accounts do you have where you can manipulate it so that your portfolio is still seeing some form of success for the day?
So I would like to bring it back.
It's not real money.
That too.
Yeah. So that's what I want to touch upon. So bringing it back to what you said, and that's something I don't even think about because I dabble myself in stock, but that's something I never really thought about too. Like, that's not money that's like available right now. And that's a big misconception that people don't understand in this situation, which kind of does change the whole conversation of, yeah, we made all this money, but if you wanted to pull out now, can you? You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't understand that by the time you can pull out, maybe that 1 million will become like negative $1 million. You know what I mean?
And let's not forget Reddit and Robinhood and quite a few of these other, like you're dealing with stocks and trading. Like none of that stuff is FDIC insured. So if too many people go too hard at one time and they file bankruptcy, well, you have $400,000.
Yeah,
you might get a penny on the dollar at that point if you're lucky, right? So you know, if that occurs too much, not to say that every average Joe has the same amount of money to spread around as hedge fund investors do. But if it happens too often, then what's that going to look like for the market? You know, are these third party places just going to stop?
But most people have no concept of even that, what you're talking about. Most people just look at it as I bought this stock at $20. Now it's $300. Now I want my money. Now I want to sell. People aren't thinking about the adverse effects of the full market and all of that. People like, especially these days, because like everyone's getting into it. Everyone's this same
It's
idea
easier to
with
get
that
into
whole.
it now.
What's up?
It's easier to get into now. Back in the day, I had no idea how to get into stocks.
Right, because now they have your Robin Hoods, as we mentioned before, your, all these apps that you could just jump on and, just start trading. As they make it seem like it's simple. But with that information Steve just said, it's not as simple as even those companies are making it seem like. It's not that simple as, just putting your money in there. The money, that stock goes high and you just get your money back. It's not that simple.
It's somewhat simple, but I mean, greed is the motivating factor behind everything, right? So like, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a finance major, but in finance, they have this thing called a money multiplier, where it's essentially you put
aren't you
money.
a finance major?
No, I was marketing and management.
Oh,
you put
wait,
money.
aren't you a finance major? All right, go. I'm sorry.
If you're ADOS or if you're Black, don't play games you can't afford to play.
Yeah.
Now they have everyone all mixed up now with diversity, equity, inclusion, and we can all be the same and There are some things that ADOS and Black folks, we can't afford to play certain games. I guarantee you the people who started this on Reddit were not melanated. There's a certain amount of privilege that comes with, we're going to take on the hedge fund managers.
Yeah, that's
we got
privilege.
other things to fix.
That's
Don't
a
let the
privilege
media get you wrapped up in something that doesn't matter. We got other issues.
Yeah, that is a privilege as initiative. Because when if it was something like if for instance, let's take this perfect example. With the whole capital thing versus the capital insurance versus what Black people did, right? When it comes to when Black people come together and do stuff, there's a little more heightened awareness or response of like, holy shit, these Black people are, coming together to do some shit. But when it's like white people, it's kind of like more leeway, like, whatever. It's just your friendly.
I'm gonna tell you why it's a bad example. I get it, but let me tell you why it's a bad example. This is how short-sighted people are. The attack on the Capitol would have been handled different if the whole year people weren't saying the police were too rough. You can't go a whole year talking about the police and then something else happened. You're like, yo, you're not going to do anything? It's like,
no, it's not just a whole year, bro. It's not just a whole year. This has been happening for a while. That when it comes to Black people doing some like, whenever Black people are
I'm talking about that example. I'm not talking about your whole point. I'm talking about that example.
But I'm just saying,
DC has more law enforcement agencies than anywhere else because of who lives there and who works there, right? And so, like, when I came in the house and my wife showed me, I said, they should be shot. But then I was like, they just spent the whole time saying that the police should do X, Y, Z, this, that, and the next. Plus, if you know, and this is to you guys, if you know there's a side that believes in guns and a side that doesn't believe in guns, and you decide to go with the side that doesn't believe in guns, that's your fault.
But that's even more of a reason why they should have done something. This is a group of people that believe in guns.
He's saying they knowingly would have went in there like, yo, I got my guns too, and it was a whole bunch of dead people.
But to bring it back, we're not having that conversation.
Both ways, and this is the victim mentality too. You can't have it both ways. Either they ODing or they not. So if they're ODing and you want them to chill, when they chill, you can't say, yo, I need you to OD. Because you can't be there to flip the switch. It doesn't work like that, especially tactically. Once the big guy sets the tactics, that's where you execute. So if there's a protest in Minnesota and I'm law enforcement in DC and the police chief is like, listen, we ain't about to get into this shit. Here's a new protocol. NYPD changed their protocol. Here's a new protocol. That's what they're going to execute on. They don't get to just change it in the moment, regardless of what you see on TV.
Right.
Everybody's not built like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you if we were talking about beat cops, right? Like, hey, the protocol is going to change, when we're out in society. But this is people who invaded a federal building, right? That's where. All right, I definitely understand what you're saying, but I definitely feel like the circumstances were a little bit different as well. Like, I mean, this is a federal building in the nation's capital that we're talking about, right? And I actually ran into one of my customers who I visited his home. He works in the Capitol building. Him and his wife do, and they just happened to be working from home for 2 days before that incident happened. And then I went over there on the 7th, so it was the day after. And, I'm trying to do my presentation. And he was just on the phone, like on his email, like constantly the entire day. And then, finally he decided to buy and we moved forward. And then like things kind of settled down for a little bit. And he was talking to me. He's like, you know what? I've been working in the Capitol building for the past 20 years. And, we go there every day and it's somewhere where you feel safe, right? Like it's, there. I wouldn't second guess that something like this, would happen. And then just all of a sudden there's people in this building, like, vandalizing and, there's people who had zip ties. I fully believe that it was an orchestrated event and there was the intention of taking some people hostage. But it just didn't work out that way.
I just don't think they had the tactics to actually do it. I think it's mostly
exactly.
Plan,
you
right?
know what I'm saying?
They were, yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. The problem is that's a public building. Like it's this me looking at the whole picture. Before that incident happened, a lot of the people that are here talking about the incident didn't give a shit about the Capitol. Right? But now all of a sudden it's a sacred building. Oh, that's different. It's a federal building. That's for the law. They've never talked about it in that instance. So I'm able to see they're just only talking about it with that reverence because it's convenience. Right?
I wouldn't say
it's convenient to do so.
I wouldn't say it. So at least my view on it, I'm not going to say this is everyone's view. I wouldn't say I held it sacred. The Capitol to me, like Don said, I always had an idea that it's a capital of the United States. There's a bunch of politicians in there. The last thing in my mind is for regular everyday people to be able to bust into that place the way they did. Right. You know what I mean? So
remember, I just got done saying there are some games we can't afford to play.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, if black people would have, it doesn't matter. Don't even think like that. We can't even afford to find out.
Yeah.
No, that's not a game you should be playing. and so
yeah, you're right.
There's 5 black people in the Capitol. What y'all niggas doing here?
There are certain things, but the hell? There's no reason. Exactly. Like there's no reason for us to even look into that. Yeah. Like there are so many more grassroots ground issues we have to deal with, and the media gets y'all, not maybe particularly y'all, but people confused about looking to that. That's not even what you should be worried about.
You're right.
Like you should be worried about Southeast DC. Like whatever happened at the Capitol, they're gonna be all right.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. But when all the rioting was happening in Minnesota, and I forget which federal building it was, but some federal building in Minnesota the courthouse got vandalized, right? And then remember, Trump had tweeted, "Oh, anybody who vandalizes federal buildings, maximum penalty." 10 years in a federal facility, blah, blah, blah. All right, keep that same energy, man. All these people who've been identified, throughout the riot. That's all I'm saying.
He's not the president anymore.
Yeah, he's not the president, but the law is the law, right? So it's not like he gets out of office and then the law isn't in place anymore. Like the law is the law. All right, so
folks got locked up over this. Like 100 plus people got locked up. Let me tell you the intelligence.
Hold on, 100 plus people got arrested, but are they going to get convicted? That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Are they going to get charged? Or are they going to get convicted?
But you had people in Congress advocating for the stuff in Minneapolis, right? So those people also need to be charged with inciting violence.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, I agree. Yes. I agree.
Yes.
People, and listen, I don't have a horse in this race. I really don't care. As long as you don't come to my house and do anything to my family, I'm pretty sure you're the same way.
Pretty much.
My only problem is I see people playing both sides.
Yeah.
When it's something they agree with, it's fine. When it's a cause they don't agree with, now all of a sudden they're lawyers and like historians and stuff like that. It's like, just keep like you said, keep that same energy. Because when my wife showed me, I said, "Oh, they should be shot." She was like, "Oh, they're Trump supporters," and never asked who it was. Didn't matter.
Yeah, wrong is wrong.
Didn't
Right, G?
matter.
That's what you're saying, right? Wrong is wrong.
Yeah, it don't matter who it is or what they stand for or anything else. Because now I would advocate that's like on that borderline. That's like you going into terrorism now.
Mm-hmm.
Going, they are, man. They are.
But I'm talking about all the violence. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about if I work at Target and you do BLM and you start breaking in my windows at Target.
Oh, I'm shooting you.
Terrorism.
I'm shooting you. Yeah, I'm shooting. I'm gonna definitely shoot you.
Like, leave people alone. You have a right to protest, and you should be heard or speak or select someone to speak for you. I get it. I'm with all of that. But once you start terrorizing people who have nothing to do with your immediate instance, then I think y'all should all get the same thing. Because now I'm gonna lose the message in the violence.
Yeah, I'm about to get real random right here, but I just saw I'm really just gonna mention this, and then we can get back to what we was talking about. But I just saw an article earlier today. This dollar store employee down in Buckhead, this guy came in there without a mask, and he pistol whipped him.
The employee, Buckhead, Georgia.
The employee pistol whipped the customer because he came in there with no mask. I'm like, yo, dollar store? Like, why he even have a gun?
Buckhead, Georgia.
Yeah.
First off,
Buckhead,
Georgia is definitely
like,
at the dollar store.
But Buckhead, Georgia is like the Hollywood
at the dollar store.
Buckhead is like the Hollywood in Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are two Buckheads. Their Buckhead is like a city or like an area within Atlanta, and then there's Buckhead, Georgia. That's like the country. That's like maybe 2-3 hours away from Atlanta. But
I'm assuming this is like Buckhead in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's like the Hollywood or the Beverly Hills of Atlanta. It's a lot of money out there. So I'm surprised there's a dollar store there.
You about to get reckless endangerment and all types of stuff.
Oh yeah, those might be
you gonna get a record for Dollar Tree, bro? Come on.
Yeah,
exactly. You going hard? That's too much.
They ain't about to put them the lawyers for you.
That's too much. He's working too hard. I know they don't pay him that much.
Like, hey, you better put your mask on, old Mark ass.
Mark ass busted.
Dollar store up here, cuz.
Yo.
That's
you know what I'm saying? We take precautionary steps up here, homie.
Wow.
That's another thing I never understood, and we're gonna let it go after this. But like, why do cats like to risk their life over something that doesn't belong to them? Like, bro, this is not your merchandise. It's not your store. Just walk. Just walk away.
For real.
No, I'm gonna risk everything I've ever worked for the dollar.
They say on next Friday, and I die for this shit. Child play security. I die for this shit right here.
What you went for? Defending the dollar store. Mark ass nigga didn't want to wear his mask. I had to show him where I was from.
It still won't get a promotion.
You know what's the funnier part about this?
No
Not mentioning
it still get no promotion, yo.
Promotion. His manager probably came in shortly after and like, yo, dude, what was you thinking? I'm gonna have to let you go.
It was against store policy. You assaulted a customer. The gun could have went off when you pistol whipped him. Assault with intent. Like, out of there.
What's up with that raise? What's up with that raise, though, Brian? Listen here, Jerome. No raise. No job.
He probably managed them. He probably told them something along the lines of pending HR investigation, we'll reach back out to you. Because I'm not going to tell nobody with a gun right now. Hey man, we'll I'm gonna have to have you go home for a little bit. Let me get with HR real quick. Okay, don't come back. Don't come back. Let me get with HR first, and then we'll work that out. Okay.
Bro,
damn,
that's funny.
Yo, y'all know I'm working in Philly now, man. I got one story about Philly that I could see why he gun butted that dude. Yo, like I had this employee working for me. I don't know what it is about this kid, but he really got under my skin that day. So I'm walking by, and this kid is sleeping with his head inside of a bag as I walk by. I stand there for like 5-10 minutes, and I'm like, look, I gotta wake this kid up, right? So I wake him up, and I'm like, yo, what's up, man? Is everything all right over here? Are you good? You know what this little kid told me? He looked at me. He said, I'm good. Are you good? I said, oh, hell no. You gotta go.
You should have taken your belt off and fucking whipped his ass.
I did him one back. I took his badge and I walked him out the door. I said, don't you ever come back here again, dog.
Oh,
like
that was the real professional way to do it. There you go. Good for you.
I can see how that dude got his feelings because I was about to cuss him out, man. I'm good. Are you good?
I'm good. You good?
I don't think you understand the dynamics of this relationship right here. I'm your boss. For me. So let me get your badge and let me walk you up out of here, dog. This ain't gonna work.
But that's Philly.
Yo,
though.
it's
Like,
crazy
I'm head
because
nigga in charge.
that
That's
type of
Philly.
behavior will get like praise, or people like, oh yeah, you know how it is. Like, bro, I don't know how that is. Like
No,
Thomas Sowell said,
brother.
he's a brilliant economist, black man. You'll never hear about him because he's conservative. But he said real racism is considering the ghetto blacks the real blacks.
Yep.
like a real nigga, aka.
Yeah, like what is
Yeah.
that? And it's always dealing with something illegal, and you're supposed to just accept it. You know, I was listening to another guy. He was saying how the myths and the lies go. And people say, "Yo, you know not to snitch. We're raised not to tell." And he was like, "If you lied to your mom, I bet she whooped you. She didn't give you a treat. She didn't give you a surprise for lying to her. Every time you lied to your mom or dad, they whooped you. So you saying you're raised not to tell is going against everything that you were raised to do."
Yeah, I never understood that mentality, especially in the black community. Like, if anybody should be telling, it should be us, right?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to tell. Why not? What, I'm going to go to jail for your dumbness? Like, no, I'm not. No.
Uh-oh, now you about to open up a whole can of worms, like on the level C6-9?
Yeah.
Who, me?
Yeah, because he took hard.
Well, I ain't going to lie. I will tell. But at the end of the day, I'm not a part of that life. You dig what I'm saying?
Neither was he.
No, but he was.
He
was perpetrating though. He was
perpetrating. But my thing is,
Yeah.
if I do something wrong to one of y'all, right? It could be to the police. It could be to a woman, right? I'm not going to lie to get myself out of trouble, or lie on you, or I'm sorry, snitch on you to get myself out of trouble, or snitch on you to make myself look better. That's just not how I'm built. However, if you steal my bike or steal my car and I see you stole it, I'm gonna tell.
Yeah.
I'm not going after you, because if I go after you, now I'm in the same boat as you. Because then I go to jail, then I can't be here for my son and my wife. Like, that's what I understand
that's exactly how it ends up too. You don't tell, right?
I just
you
don't
go do it
understand that
yourself.
snitching shit.
You end up getting in the shootout. You kill him. Both of y'all go to jail. And you're going to be like, what? I'm a real N-word?
Yeah. Like, nah. Like, that's one of the dumbest rules in the black community. I'm not sure if it's just in the black community, but I know it's in the black community. That's like one of the dumbest rules, yo.
Think about this.
No snitching.
A lot. The things they say that about the black community, what people consider culture is only about 40 years old. It's not really the black culture. It's just some recent shit, and people say it's black culture. It's not black culture.
So it's not black culture.
It's only about 40 years old. It only came about with like hip hop.
Yeah. we got one more, don't we? We got one more.
No, that was actually the last one.
Nice.
That was the last topic. So that's it. That's it for as far as topics. Anybody got like any words of wisdom? Anything they want to share before we go?
If I find the next GameStop, I slide y'all $1.
There we go.
I appreciate you. And one thing people don't realize, whether it's Bezos, Walt Disney, Jobs, like these dudes are not sweethearts. They are aggressive. They know what they want to do, and nothing takes them off their path. And that's what most people don't realize. Like work-life balance is for people with jobs. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a grind, like it's not about having work-life balance. You just got to prioritize when you're going to do what, and that's a whole different mindset.
There goes our words of wisdom. There you go, right there. Appreciate that.
Work
All
life
right,
balance.
man. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the win. But yeah, thank you guys. It was a good conversation. Once again.